What are some things people have told you where they were blatantly wrong, but would defend themselves as if they were right no matter what? A guy once told me that his snowmobile could go faster than the speed of light. I tried reasoning with him, but he claimed that because when he starts going he can't see his headlights on the trees in front of him, but when he stopped he could see them again. I suggested maybe there was an electrical issue that caused the lights to not work when driving. I explained that nothing could go faster than light and that he was not going 186,000 miles a second. He said his light must be going slower than that 'cause there wasn't nothing wrong with his skidoo. A girl from work once told me that you always hear thunder 6 seconds after you see lightning. When I tried to explain why she was wrong, she told me I was incorrect because of the Doppler effect. When I was younger, I used to count the seconds between the lightning and boom to see how far away it was. When it went down to 1 to 2 seconds, I went back inside. My boyfriend was certain that periods happen all in one go. As in, one day, you go to the toilet and a torrent of blood comes out and that's it for the month. His innocence was so cute that it actually pained me to correct him. The look of dismay on his face when I told him his biology teacher had clearly lied to him was heart-wrenching. As a female, I sometimes wish this was the case. Wait, what does happen? I thought that too. A period can last from 3 days to a little over a week. Some days, usually the first few, have heavier flow than others. Source: my uterus. My uncle told me his netbook can only play music because it has 1 GB of RAM. That songs are well under that, but DVDs are over 1 GB, so he doesn't have enough memory for movies. He is also strongly against MacBooks because no one needs a processor that big, it is waste of money and electricity. He went on to explain why your electricity bill would be so much higher powering a MacBook than a Windows netbook. I listened in amazement. Told this before, but when I was a teenager my dad would yell at me when I would take my computer to LAN parties. The reason? You'll break the crystals inside. That I had to wait for the microwave to stop beeping before opening the door, so the radiation didn't leak out. I opened after the second beep, before the third, and they almost had a heart attack. Man, you should open it with a few seconds left on the clock and then start screaming and running around clutching your hand, then stuff it under the tap in the sink cursing the mad genius that created such an infernal contraption. She might faint. Good times. I did once have this super old dial microwave that didn't have the auto stop when you opened the door. When you opened it without turning the dial to off, it would keep on microwaving. Maybe that used to be a problem? Hedgehogs don't need air. This all started when my friend and I were playing Sonic the Hedgehog and I complained how he needed to capture bubbles to keep breathing, and then loudly proclaimed, "Everyone knows hedgehogs don't need oxygen, it's a well-known fact." I must have kept up with that statement for years. It became a running joke. So yes, no oxygen for hedgehogs. They do need air? I thought they ran on rings. That is what I mean. No air needed. It's also a well-known fact that hedgehogs run super fast on 2 legs. They are also born wearing little red sneakers. True story. This reminds me of a time in high school when a friend made a joke about getting killed by wolverines and his girlfriend replies with, "Don't be silly! Wolverines aren't real!" Oh, they are real. Just ask the Russians and Cubans. I had an argument with girl that was very convinced that you have to pour alcohol into wine to make it alcoholic. So basically that would be grape juice plus random alcoholic beverage equals wine. Dear God, where to start? My wife is Chinese and with that comes a lot of folk superstition. Walking too fast, sleeping too soon, reading, or talking too much after eating are bad for your health. Drinking cold water is bad for your health, especially if you're feeling a bit ill. Doing anything at all in the month after giving birth, including showering, walking, exposing your hands or feet to open air, and others, is bad for your health. Getting your wisdom teeth pulled can cause permanent memory loss. Oral contraceptives can render you completely infertile. While living in China, I was also advised not to shower for about a week after a laparoscopic appendectomy. I followed this advice to begin with but decided to start bathing when I noticed that the 2 incisions on the sides of my belly had almost healed but the one on my navel hadn't progressed as far because it was slightly green with pus dribbling out. Edit. Forgot that going to bed with wet hair will also cause severe headaches and that in the winter, cold air makes your brain process things slower. That's funny. After my appendectomy, my surgeon suggested I shower at least twice every day. It was an excuse to get you to shower more often. That I'm the one who put the viruses on the computer, regardless of how many toolbars my mom has downloaded. Computer's running slow. Did you install any new games? Even after having moved away long ago, my teeth clenched in reflex just typing that out. You can get pregnant by swallowing semen. My 10th grade health teacher and I didn't quite get along. There is one documented occurrence of such happening. The lady in question was stabbed, rupturing the stomach and uterus. Semen made its way into the uterus. I'm not actually allergic to dairy products. The reason I get sick when I add milk to my coffee is because the coffee is so hot it curdles and spoils the milk. Amphibians are not animals, they are amphibians. A friend of mine argued this until the end of time. He said something stupid in our bio class, and another friend and I brought it up later. He argued that he was right because amphibians are their own kingdom. He also believed all animals were mammalian. Eventually the argument faded out, but I don't think my friend's opinion ever changed. I knew a kid who thought the same thing, but about insects. No amount of convincing made him change his mind, even from our biology teacher. My friends and I were playing animal, mineral, vegetable on a long car journey, and it was the turn of one of the less bright members of the group. We asked him, "Animal, mineral, or vegetable?" "I don't know." "What do you mean you don't know? Are ants a mineral or an animal?" Someone tried to convince me the Holocaust never happened because, get this, the German army only had enough food to feed their soldiers and not Jewish prisoners, so they starved. I was blown back and angry that I'll never get those precious moments of my life back. Says the guy who wastes hours a day on Reddit. C'est la vie. There is a variant of this that says the Germans didn't have enough fuel to cremate all the bodies in concentration camps, or something to that effect. I got into a long, never-ending argument with my hard-headed friend in high school. He kept arguing that Mexicans didn't speak Spanish, but some mixed form of Aztec and Spanish. I said that yeah, sure maybe some words are Aztec infused, but they spoke Spanish, or Castellano. He disagreed, rather adamantly. I'm Latino, Spanish speaker, from Central America. I think I knew what I was talking about. This was in SoCal, where people tend to label all Latinos as Mexican. Edit. Allow me to clarify a few points. First, like I said, this was a very, very long argument, so I certainly tried to clarify the situation to find out if he maybe meant a different variation of Spanish or something. But no, he meant Mexican, as in Portuguese or French. An entirely different language. That is simply untrue, and very ignorant. But he just insisted. Anyway, no matter how much slang other countries may add to Spanish, they do continue speaking Spanish. It's like claiming Canadians and people from the States don't speak English. They do. There are variations, but the language is the same thing. Plus, Spanish is regulated by the Royal Academy, so slang shall always remain slang and nothing more. One that annoys me to no end is when people describe Latinos as Spanish. I just look at them and say, "So I guess that makes you English?" They get all pissed off. Then I calmly explain that people from Latin America are not Spanish, people from Spain are Spanish. As someone from the UK, I got very confused when Hispanic was a separate racial category from Caucasian in Fallout 3's character generator, because every Hispanic person I've ever met is Caucasian. My mom was convinced that playing Dungeons and Dragons would ultimately put me in league with Satan. My ex's mom was also convinced of this. My mother was convinced that we all had sex and or groped each other the whole game. I tried to explain to her that it wasn't. She was not convinced until I made her sit in on a game with myself, 3 friends, and 2 of my cousins. She was surprised and said, "Wow, all you really do is roll dice and tell stories," despite the 50 billion times I told her that. My parents used to smoke in the car, with the windows rolled up. When I tried to open a window, they said, "No, you'll catch a draft." This happened in the 50s and 60s. Well, they were right. You would catch a draft. That albums are stupid and you should only listen to singles as every band musician only has a few good songs. Not really a fact, but it was the stupidest thing I ever heard. It really pissed me off was he was saying I was stupid for having so many albums. I've had to argue it the other way around actually. but totally agree with both points. I don't think there's any right way to listen to music. Just enjoy the fuck out of what you like and ignore the rest. I think it depends on the album. Some artists write albums meant to be listened as a whole, whereas others make an album seemingly full of singles. I was partying with some friends a few summers ago, and one of my friends wanted to sleep on the porch, as it was a warm night. One of our friends, who was drunk, was adamant that he would freeze to death, because we have to be at 98 degrees all the time, or we die. Despite everyone's repeated examples of 70-ish degree climates being very survivable and comfortable, my friend stood his ground, that sleeping in any temperature under 98 degrees would result in death. The kicker: the next morning, my friend, now sober, rather than admit he was being drunk and silly, responded with the news of the previous night's discussion with, "Oh, sorry for looking out for you." What's something someone confidently insisted was right but was blatantly wrong? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.